Well, so today we're finally cooking that chocolate, no refined sugar, granola. And as you can see here, vividly, you can see dates. And of course, we're sweetening it with dates. Be mindful, yes, dates are a great alternative to refined sugar because they contain a bunch of fiber. It's like comparison between like just juicing fruits and eating whole fruits, right? And they also have minerals in them. So they have some health benefits compared to sugar, obviously, but be mindful that even though you transition from refined sugar to eating a ton of dates all of a sudden, you're not going to lose weight or like wake up like a Barbie the next day, okay? So be mindful that they're still high calorie foods, so don't go crazy on those. But they're still better than sugar. Be mindful. Still monitor how much you consume. So our granola will consist of mainly buckwheat groats. Here I set it to drain. I soaked it for a couple of hours. So just plain cold water. I use filtered water for that because whatever goes in it will be consuming. So then I rinsed it very, very thoroughly because if you ever soak green buckwheat, it forms that like mucus. So you want to get rid of that as much as possible. And rinse and rinse and rinse and rinse until the water that's draining from it is relatively clean. Then this granola will call for you can just go with buckwheat essentially, but I like to add different nutritious seeds to it. So for this one, I like using sesame seeds. These were soaked in cold water with a little bit of salt for like 3 hours or so. And I also had some sunflower and pumpkin seeds that also were soaked for a couple of hours in salt water. So soaking the seeds in salt water essentially removes some phytic acid out of them, which binds to nutrients and prevents their absorption inside of your body. It's not as harmful, it's not as horrible as you might have heard from some scientific rumors, but still, it's still better to get maximum out of your nutrition, especially if you have some restrictive diets. And if you recall, what typical store-bought granola consists of, it's usually some grain, and binder. And for the binder, manufacturers like to use different syrups which solidify when they undergo some thermal treatment. Our granola will not undergo any thermal treatment, and we are not using any sugar, syrup, and other crap, so we need a binder for that. And as you know, chia seeds and flax seeds in contact with moisture produce an amazing glue that will make our granola stick. And with dates, we will make, since we're in chocolate room right now, you can skip chocolate altogether and just make them with dates, with like orange peel and other fun stuff. But I will make chocolate today. Just will need some cacao powder. I use Navitas, it's the tastiest one to my taste again. And I will also add some cacao nibs just for extra crunch, for extra piquancy here. So, and actually on the subject of binders, if you are a raw foodist, you might find them very useful. I mean, you might find flax seeds really useful and chia. Here I want to show you, let me know in the comments if you're interested. This is my lunch bowl. Here are cabbage and carrot, flavor like very, very spiced patties that I made using just grated cabbage and carrot and some flax and chia seeds. So they stuck together, dehydrated them overnight. Here they are, perfect. You can eat them with any sauce, and on the side there is some kale chips that I also cooked. Classics. Just tell me in the comments if you want to hear the recipe for those. So let's get us started. As you see, I already soaked the dates in hot water such that they get mushy and clean on the surface. And I just need to leave for a second to drain my seeds, and we will start assembling our granola. So I put all my seeds in the bowl, and now I will stir them. So I find it better to add seeds to something like granola because I typically munch on nuts anyways, and seeds are such a thing that's kind of hard to include in your diet. That's why I prefer to conceal them in such dishes that are very strongly flavored, and so it's like you want to hide them in some cheat type of foods, because again, if you want, what I'm saying is that you can add crushed nuts to this granola as well. But what I'm saying is that I prefer to add seeds because, again, it's hard for me to eat seeds on a regular basis just as they are. So I like to just hide them here. So this is how it looks so far. And we need now, before we start preparing our sauce, our chocolate mixture that will provide us with flavor and sweetness, I'm adding flax seeds and chia seeds, such that they can react with moisture that we have in our buckwheat and seeds, and give us that binding action. So to your discretion, really. I don't give any measures because the recipe can flow dependent on your preferences. And at this same point, you can also add cocoa powder. You can add it with dates, mix it with dates, or you can add it right now. As a chocolate freak, I add a bunch of it. And now we need to stir it again, really well. Also, you can add some vanilla extract and a little bit of salt. So I'm adding vanilla extract. It's a huge amount, so you will definitely need a lot. I typically store my granola in such a sealed jar. I think this batch will be at least twice larger than this one, so I will have to use a couple of jars. And I make sure that I dehydrate it very thoroughly, such that it stores and doesn't spoil. So we mix this very well to let all chia and flax homogeneously spread in between the constituents of this granola, and get as much water and bind the mixture as much as possible, because if you let a little bit of moisture and agglomerate of chia seeds, they just stick together and you get this like crunchy, fishy tasting piece of chia. That's I kind of don't like about chia, but it's a nice poppy cool seed that I like to again mask inside of some tasty dishes. So this is sitting and we can set it aside for a moment, and now we'll take care of our dates. They should be mushy at this point, so I'm going to drain them. So we're going to clean the dates and make sure that you remove all pits such that your blender doesn't freak out. Oops. Because I had accidents when I would do this so automatically that I would put pits and dates in this. I'm just enjoying this QWERTY quite a bit, so I hope you enjoyed too. Same spot. This is pitless. And just because you process 10 of them, and at one point you start like looking through the window somewhere, you get totally distracted, and voila, your granola has some surprise bites there that threaten your teeth because you don't expect to have super solid pit there. So I put them all in the blender. And now we need to blend our dates with some appreciable amount of water. Just rinsing the same glass. And you can add a little bit of salt. Salt acts as a natural flavor enhancer, so up to your taste. Water here is not scary. Again, all excess moisture will get absorbed in the flax seeds and chia seeds. So more water essentially means more glue. And don't worry about that. And since you're dehydrating, after you dehydrate your granola, it won't produce any dilute flavor for you. So we're ready to blend it. Now in my blender I only have dates and water. So I love when it goes like this, when there's no ultra thick consistency where you have to scrape your blender. Now it's pretty liquidy, and let's get, oh, it's very tasty. I'll rinse it afterwards. So now we go back to our bowl, and we will just add this sweetener to the bowl. It is not impressively sugary liquid, as you can see. But again, it will condense onto our granola after it dehydrates. So we're putting this gorgeous syrup in. You actually can make flax, what flax? Date syrup, and you can make date paste, make it very homogeneous and nice, and store it in your jar and add it to wherever you would want some extra sweetness. So if you want some smoothie, you're sweetened, if you have like some super sour berries, you can add that there, and so on and so forth. So wherever you would normally want to use sugar, whether it's like overnight oats or something, again, you can just store them several days. Just make a whole little mason jar of that gorgeous paste. But of course, you won't want much water there. So we're stirring our mass now. And I will let it sit for a couple of minutes. Again, to let flax seeds and chia do their magic here. Can do a taste test here. It's actually much sweeter than my previous one, which is nice. Because you know, there are foods that taste like health foods. But this granola does. It tastes like health food. And it really depends on how many dates you add to it. We'll have totally different experiences. What's this? Looks pretty good. So, now, this thing is sitting and sticking together. We'll prepare the hydrator sheet. There are several options you can take. This is my delight. I'm so excited about them. I want to make cashew cream for them. That will consist of cashews, lime juice, garlic, and probably some tamari sauce. We'll see how it goes. I cannot tell you the exact recipe because I haven't tried making savory cashew sauce yet. I typically make it sweet and with some berries, with some nice, for brownies, for example, right? That can also be fully raw and nice. So, I'm using the mesh screen, this one, and this granola typically holds so well that it doesn't go through the holes here in this screen, so I wouldn't worry about that. Alternatively, again, if you have an oven that can allow you to do low temperature processing, you can use your oven and just normal baking sheet for this granola. The important part here is to make it as thin as possible because you want to make sure that it dries through. Any moisture left in the food can be a source of spoilage. So be mindful of that. If you're planning to store something, especially at room temperature, you want to dry it through. That's why, again, spread it as thinly as possible. The alternative for the hydrator will be an alternative to this mesh screen that's kind of standard. It will be a nice silicone sheet I use them for something very liquidy, so and something that drips juice. So now I have some sun-dried tomatoes, dehydrator dried tomatoes cooking there. And just not to get juices from tomatoes throughout my dehydrated foods that are cooking at the same time with them, I use silicone sheet such that it's impermeable for what could potentially drip from those tomatoes. So now let's start spreading our granola. I cannot do things normally in the first attempt. Something always goes where it's not intended to. So you can spread it as a sheet. If you have some discretization, it's okay, because I prefer to break it in little pieces. Alternatively, you can make it as cookies if you prefer such shape, if you prefer to bring it like for lunch, for example. However, it holds really well. So after you dehydrate it, you can break it in whatever shape you want. And I don't know how aesthetically offensive some random shape would be to you, but I don't have any problem just having randomly shaped cookies or chips, whatever. So spreading it evenly, spreading it thin, like spread it as a monolayer of buckwheat growth, so that will be your reference. And next step, after I dispose all of this mixture, I think it will be at least 3 sheets, I will put it into the dehydrator for probably till tomorrow morning. However, it will be fully edible at any point, because we don't use any eggs, we don't use any animal products that can be potentially hazardous, right? So we're not actually cooking it to make it safe. We're cooking to change its properties and to be able to preserve it. The temperature that I will be using will be 113 degrees Fahrenheit. And this will ensure that we keep all antioxidants, that we keep all vitamins, and that we keep all insoluble fiber. Here is how the granola is filling itself inside the dehydrator. And it's still pretty soft, but when it solidifies just a little bit, I might remove it from this sheet and flip it over and put it only on the coarse mesh sheet, such that it dries a little bit better. However, I don't think that I've ever done this before, and it was totally fine. Just increase the time of dehydration. So it's 3 sheets currently, and it will take me, again, I probably will keep it there for overnight. And another thing that I currently have here is sun-dried tomatoes. You can see pieces of garlic, and you see a lot of them are gone. And I'm drying them on the silicone sheet that I got from Amazon. This one, right in the kitchen. It's pretty convenient if you cook something sticky. So here it is. We'll let it rest, and then I will just crack it into little pieces. Pretty good. Yeah, I hope you will enjoy it as you cook it. The dish is bombed, essentially, no?